I guess we'll go to Jason Snap. Jason, if you would give us an update on where you're at on your project, and I know we've had several different things going on with Lot 17, as it's known.
Yeah, we'll be happy to, Larry. Several of these items stand kind of where they did at the April meeting. The two big items that were sort of outstanding were the drainage ditch relocation and the rail spur plans. And there has been pretty significant movement on those two items. We've had a couple meetings with TDEC and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to sort of discuss the wetland disturbances and the stream disturbances for Lot 17. And the first meeting that we had was with TDEC, and it went fairly well, and they seem to be agreeable to the permit. The second meeting we had was between TDEC and the Corps, and the Corps has indicated that they basically will not issue speculative permits to be able to disturb those wetlands and streams. So that's a little bit cumbersome for the initial development of the site. It does allow us to have basically a package. The plans, the design plans are complete, and will be submitted with the final package that we have that basically includes the rail spur, the Lot 17 grading, the sewer line relocation, and all the due diligence efforts. So those plans will still be a good marketing tool for the IDB to take to somebody and say, we've done all the upfront work. Here's the size pad we can get out of Lot 17. Here's what we can do. Although we may not be able to grade this fall or whenever, in the spring like we initially thought. Basically, the Corps said, once you get a bird in hand, you can take these plans and start the permit process basically instantly. So it does save some time on that side of things. That permit process is about a 6-month process at minimum to be able to get the Corps to sign off on it. So, now Larry, you can take it to whoever wants to locate at Lot 17 and say, hey, we've got this in hand. You give us the go ahead. Here's the documents that we can submit to the Corps and get your permit going. So it shrinks the timeline, to be able to get them to allow them to move dirt, basically. So I still think it's a great tool for marketing. Like I said, I hate that we won't be able to grade this fall, but the Corps is just, I just flat out asked them, will you issue a speculative permit? And the answer was no to that. So, that's a little bit of a hiccup, but I still think there's a lot of benefits to what we've done, and it's a great marketing tool going forward. Essentially now we can go to a prospective business and say, we know for a fact you can get rail access because we're going to have approval on those plans. We know for a fact you can get a 75 or 80 acre pad. We know for a fact that you can disturb these wetlands and streams to make this happen. We know for a fact that you can get the sewer line out of your way. So, this whole package, that was kind of what we were going toward. It may push off being able to get actual construction money for, like I said, grading of the pad, to a different round rather than going in August. It may be out in the future when we actually get a tenant that's, willing to locate on the site. So that's really what come out of all those conversations with the Corps and TDEC. As far as Norfolk Southern, they've been good to work with. We've had several calls with them in the last couple months, and we did submit what we considered a 60% set of plans to them for review. They sent them to their Atlanta design division for review, and they've come back and they do want a typical section change. And essentially going down into the park, they want there to be ability to add additional rail spurs to that line in the future if need be, which I think is a good idea for the park. Let's plan for the future. And to do that, you have to have, I guess for lack of better words, a little beefier rail section. And there is a significant amount of work to go back and regrade that and make that happen. But we plan to work on that over the next 2 to 3 weeks and submit back to Norfolk Southern for approval in the next month. So that's kind of where the overall Lot 17 development plans stand. Everything is fairly close to being wrapped up on that, and there'll be a final report, sent to the IDB at the appropriate time, probably in the next month or so, and that'll pretty much conclude the services on that upfront due diligence efforts. And obviously the plans will be sitting there, and if there's money available, that stuff can be initiated, and if not, we can wait till the next funding round and initiate it at that time. So, any questions on that particular project?
Jason, Mr. Jackson took me down there last month and showed me some things on the future development sites and things like that. Kind of brought me up to speed. I called him and asked if he cared to take me down there, and he graciously did and showed me some things. One of the questions I had is the railroad currently right now.
Yep.
There are tracks in place in the park, but they're currently not used, correct?
That's correct.
If that did happen, would all that track have to be redone?
Yes.
Okay.
They're requiring us to do what they call reworking the track, which basically is rebuild it from the subgrade up.
Okay.
So the ballast and the sub ballast and the track and the tiles would all be replaced.
Okay.
Yeah, and that would be from up around Homeland Vinyl on down into the track.
It looks good, but you know, there's
Yeah.
trees starting to grow
Yeah.
up in between,
Yeah.
and you know, small saplings. And I didn't know if they had they could go through and cut that and like do a restoration, or if they would just redo
Yeah.
it all.
Yeah, essentially they'll take it back down to dirt, the subgrade, and then build it back with the ballast. And,
Okay.
the section that goes down through there now is not what they call the lead track typical section. It's an industry track typical section, which is that smaller typical section that we initially went with. So we'll be revising all that to show that lead track section.
Thank you.
Jason, that's great. Brings everybody kind of up to speed. We've had several meetings, several online meetings involving the different parties that are helping fund this project. And this kind of brings you up to speed where we're at. As Jason said, we're not going to be able to do the initial grade work as we had anticipated, and nor will we get the funding at this time until we actually get a bird in hand or really get close to something. Usually, if you think about this, most of the time, if you're looking at a project of this magnitude, you've got some time available to do grade work and stuff. That's a fairly minor thing. Much of the grade work's already done. It's a fairly level site, one of the most level sites in East Tennessee. So I think we're moving along good with that. Jason, you also going to talk to us about the water situation at Phipps Bend. Is there any other questions on lot 17 and where we're at this point in time before we move on to another subject?
So the other two projects that we're currently working on are the water storage tank rehabilitation project there in the park, and also some water line upgrades. And it includes cutting in a couple of isolation valves, installing a few fire hydrants, and installing, I think it's 900 feet of 12-inch water line to basically make a loop through the park. And this just provides reliability for all of the industries that are located within the park. It's a great idea. So if you have a leak at one spot, this person over here is not out of water. So basically it's a reliability issue to keep everybody in water service at all times. The few things that are left to get that project moving forward is right-of-way certification. It appears that's imminent from our talk the other day with Cooper, and it looks like the gentleman that owns that property is going to sign the easement, and that should allow the lawyer to sign off on the right-of-way certification. So that's the last sort of, I guess, upfront documentation issue that we have to get through, and I think that'll be probably resolved in the next few weeks, it sounds like. So that takes care of that part of it. The other issue is getting technical spec approval. I've reached back out to RD to try to confirm when we can expect that. I haven't heard back as of yet, but I think it's going to be more or less a formality. They've already looked at the specs, over the last, I guess it's been a year now. So they're well familiar with them. I don't expect there to be any hurdles to getting that technical approval if we can get the right-of-way certification. So I feel like those projects could be, going out to advertisement probably this summer. And if that's the case, I would expect the work to happen probably this fall.
Jason, thank you. I know I've spoken to the attorney several times working on this right-of-way issue, and we want to thank Gabrielle Buchanan with Cooper. one of the most convoluted things I've ever seen. Ronnie will remember, somehow that right of way was still in form rights name. And what was the name of the Canadians that built form right?
Riz,
Riz.
yeah, and they all moved to Minnesota,
Hawaii
out
or
they moved to
somewhere.
Arizona.
Yeah, and we've had a real difficult time, or the attorneys have, trying to locate who needs to sign off on it, but Gabrielle was very helpful in getting this resolved so we can move on with that water project. And as Jason said, we can look for that this summer, hopefully, get that completed. Let's call on Lynn, if we would, the state ECD report.
All right, we have made some progress on our spec building site. Hope now, like I say, to have an actual press release in June at this point. So I'm calling it and crossing my fingers. So with that, though, we do have 3 other very active projects in the park, and so one of which is related to is a supplier for that new industry. So we're excited. Like I said, those are really all great jobs, and so we're going to play each one of those leads out and see where it goes. But lots of interest, you know, again, really, really strong in the park in particular. And so as soon as we get all those sold, we'll need to start looking for some more.
It's good to hear that we're about to make an announcement, and so it's an exciting time for those of us that have been working on this for months, if not years. And as Lynn said, there's much activity, I think, right now is going on that I've seen in a long time. It's amazing. Ronnie, anything going on?
Well, of course, we involved in that spec building project and the supplier. Hopefully, the supplier will be able to find a spot, whatever. And Clay would have been here, but they got some phone call at 1 o'clock, Lynn, on the regional stuff. You know, the regional stuff's out there big time right now, taking up a lot of time. And Michael's going to submit tomorrow a request for information on the project. That TVA vetted for the state of Tennessee because it was a huge power user, and Phipps Bend checks a lot of boxes on it, so it could be a good project. It would be looking at 17, part of 17, and I don't think you'd have to do all those things for this. So,
Yeah.
Michael was sending it in tomorrow, and there's 3 or 4 other sites across the state, and I don't know what other states are looking in. It's related to the electric vehicle industry, which we're going to see a lot of that coming up.
You're seeing a lot about electric vehicles right now because there's a lot of work yet to be done involved in that. Ronnie, I appreciate that. That's, like I say, we've had as much activity
Yes,
as I've ever seen at this point in time.